This scene involving Rozen and Penny unfolds as a meticulous study of how professional proximity, economic vulnerability, and unspoken attraction intersect in ways that are both tender and ethically charged, offering one of the film's most complex meditations on power, trust, and restraint within relationships between women. At the surface level, the dialogue is dominated by legal language, paperwork, and procedural steps, yet beneath this administrative choreography lies a quiet emotional negotiation that speaks directly to queer women's lived experiences of navigating desire within systems not designed to hold it safely. Rozen enters the scene carrying the weight of her first major professional opportunity, her nervousness evident not only in her questions, but in her constant self-correction and apologies, signaling a learned need to minimize herself even while occupying a role of authority. Penny, by contrast, appears grounded and assured, her familiarity with notary procedures and legal documents positioning her as both helper and gatekeeper. Someone whose competence offers relief, while also subtly shifting the balance of power. This dynamic mirrors a familiar pattern within queer communities, where mentorship, assistance, and care often coexist with attraction, creating situations that require careful boundary setting and self-awareness. The film resists reducing this interaction to a simple narrative of temptation or impropriety, instead allowing the scene to breathe within its ambiguities, emphasizing how easily emotional intimacy can arise when one woman is seen, supported, and taken seriously by another. Rozen's admission that this commission would alleviate financial strain introduces class and precarity into the emotional landscape, reminding viewers that women's desires do not exist separately from material conditions, and that vulnerability is often compounded when economic survival is at stake. Penny's questions about the commission are not accusatory but attentive, reflecting an ethic of care that seeks to understand the stakes rather than exploit them, and this attentiveness becomes a form of intimacy in itself. Within a queer reading, the scene resonates strongly with the experience of being evaluated and supported by someone whose gaze feels both affirming and destabilizing, a gaze that recognizes competence while also awakening a longing for recognition beyond professional validation. The gradual shift from paperwork to personal curiosity is handled with remarkable restraint, allowing viewers to witness how boundaries are tested not through overt transgression, but through tone, pauses, and small gestures of attention. Penny's comment about Rozen being compelling while reading legal text, though light on the surface, carries symbolic weight, highlighting how women's intelligence and focus can become sites of attraction, especially in contexts where competence has historically been denied or undervalued. Rozen's flustered response underscores the tension many queer women feel when praised in ways that blur professional and personal affirmation, particularly when they have been socialized to fear misinterpretation or consequence. The repeated references to parents, especially Penny's father, introduce the persistent presence of familial and societal oversight, even in private spaces, reinforcing how women's choices are rarely free from imagined judgment. This imagined surveillance shapes Rozen's hesitation, her instinct to maintain professionalism serving not only ethical integrity but also self-protection in a world where missteps can carry disproportionate consequences. Penny's reassurance that discretion is possible is not framed as coercion, but as an acknowledgement of shared understanding, the kind that often arises between women who have learned to navigate respectability politics together. Importantly, the scene does not resolve this tension through action, but holds it in suspension, allowing the emotional charge to exist without requiring consummation or resolution. This choice aligns with the film's broader commitment to portraying women's interior lives with seriousness, refusing to collapse intimacy into spectacle. For lesbian and queer women, the scene captures the familiar experience of recognizing desire in moments of collaboration and mutual respect, where attraction grows not from fantasy, but from being seen as capable and worthy. It also reflects the careful negotiations queer women often undertake to remain professionally safe while honoring their emotional truth, a balancing act shaped by histories of exclusion and scrutiny. The setting of the home, described as lovely and calm, further underscores the intimacy of the moment, suggesting a domestic safety that contrasts with the high stakes of the professional transaction, and highlighting how private spaces often become sites where queer feelings surface quietly. Penny's willingness to help, to guide Rozen through unfamiliar territory, functions as both mentorship and invitation, echoing real-life dynamics where guidance and attraction are intertwined, sometimes uneasily. The film does not shy away from these complexities but treats them with nuance, acknowledging that power imbalances exist without rendering the characters villainous or naive. Rozen's insistence on keeping things professional is not portrayed as prudish or fearful, but as a thoughtful assertion of boundaries, an act of self-respect that many queer women will recognize as hard-won. Penny's response, emphasizing her own version of professionalism, opens a space for dialogue rather than pressure, suggesting that ethics are negotiated rather than imposed. This negotiation is central to the scene's emotional resonance, illustrating how women can hold desire alongside care, curiosity alongside restraint. The legal documents themselves become symbolic, representing contracts, permissions, and the formal recognition of authority, elements that queer women have historically been denied in their personal relationships. By embedding attraction within this bureaucratic context, the film subtly critiques the systems that regulate whose relationships are legible and protected, while also showing how women find ways to connect within and around these structures. The scene invites viewers to reflect on how trust is built not only through declarations, but through competence, transparency, and the willingness to slow down. Rozen's nervousness, her concern about doing things correctly, speaks to a broader theme of women striving to be beyond reproach, aware that mistakes are less easily forgiven. Penny's steadiness offers a counterbalance, modeling a confidence that does not dominate but supports, and this dynamic can be deeply affirming for viewers who have longed for such recognition. As the conversation drifts from legal language to personal curiosity, the film captures the liminal space where friendship, mentorship, and attraction overlap, a space familiar to many queer women who have lacked clear scripts for navigating these connections. The absence of clear resolution honors this reality, resisting the urge to label or conclude prematurely. Instead, the scene lingers on the act of noticing, of acknowledging nervousness and curiosity without demanding action. This restraint is itself a form of respect, both for the characters and for the audience, affirming that intimacy does not require immediacy to be meaningful. In a broader cultural context, the scene challenges narratives that either sensationalize women's attraction to one another or erase it entirely, offering instead a portrayal grounded in everyday interactions and ethical consideration. It suggests that women's love, admiration, and desire can coexist with professionalism and care, even when navigating unequal footing. For women regardless of orientation, the scene resonates with experiences of burnout, financial stress, and the longing to be understood beyond roles and obligations. It speaks to the exhaustion of always needing to be careful, to anticipate consequences, and to manage impressions, and it offers a glimpse of what becomes possible when another woman meets that care with attentiveness rather than judgment. Ultimately, the scene contributes to the film's larger project of making women's relationships visible as sites of complexity and growth, insisting that they are worthy of narrative space and ethical seriousness. By focusing on conversation, hesitation, and mutual recognition, it affirms that becoming visible to oneself often happens in moments of quiet acknowledgement rather than dramatic declaration. The interaction between Rozen and Penny stands as a testament to the quiet resilience of women-centered connections, where truth emerges slowly and care is practiced deliberately. It reminds viewers that intimacy is not defined solely by what is done, but by how people attend to one another's vulnerability, boundaries, and hopes. In holding this moment with such care, the film invites audiences to recognize the beauty and difficulty of navigating desire within structures that demand caution, and to honor the courage it takes for women to remain open, ethical, and present with one another, in a world that still struggles to fully acknowledge the depth and legitimacy of women's love for women.